Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It is Geoff, Mosher, Adam, Caplan, and it's a big week for the Eagles, Adam, as OTAs begin. And this is an important time for the Eagles, who are turning over a lot of the roster, especially on defense, right? We've talked about that all off season long. Got some young players that they're going to shoehorn in there and say, hey, let's see what you got. Got a lot of coaching going on, and it's just a vital time for the Eagles in the offseason. And so we'll give a quick OTA preview. We'll give you some intel on what we know is going to be taking place over this month in the OTAs. And then we'll also continue to look at our the divisional odds. You know, we did the Eagles in the last one in the division, odds to win the Super Bowl, odds to win division. We have some more things that we're going to go through from that standpoint in this podcast. Want to remind everyone, please continue, and you're all doing a great job of sending your questions for Andrew DeCecco's mailbag, Sam Finkel's data mailbag to insidethebirds@gmail.com. We just had Sam's second mailbag, Inside the Data mailbag drop on, I think that dropped Tuesday. So that was great. DeCecco has been doing them as well. So please send those questions and make sure you address who those questions are to, so that we can send them to the right people. OTAs, Adam, you know, I don't want to sound like the get off my lawn type person, but you remember OTAs used to be a lot more cool for the media and therefore the fans, because they always used to be open. They always used to be, you know, we could write about it. We could see some personnel groupings. We can see how some younger players are progressing. And now they don't do that because they don't have to. I think you only have to open the mandatory camps, right? And then what the Eagles do is they allow you to see one of the three, however many they want to have, of the voluntary OTAs, and you just don't get as much as you used to.
Yeah, there are only 6. As a matter of fact, the maximum, I think, is 10 of OTA days for practices, and the Eagles are only having 6 of them. And now they're not the only team that does that. The Steelers, by the way, they only do 6, but the Steelers have their mandatory camp. They have 3 days where the Eagles only have 1. So the Eagles only have 7 practices where in their off season where they're able to do, other than they can't be physical. You can't wear pads, you can't hit, but where it's real coaching, offenses versus defense, team. You know, you could do 7-on-7, 9-on-7. Before their first practice, which was yesterday, which was Tuesday, every other workout were not organized. It's all you could do was just light stuff. But the cool thing, the important stuff about this, not that anyone's winning jobs, you want to see where players are from a mental standpoint, and we'll get to the OTA part of which is a little bit more important when they're actually more structured. But you always hear coaches say the rookies are swimming. They are. They're for the most part, it's stuff they've never done in their career. Their offense is different from or defense, depending on what side of the football they're on. It's completely different for them, so it's harder. The playbooks are harder here, so it's definitely something that's different. But in the progression of a player's career, it's this is where it all starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have quarterbacks learning new offenses. You have some offensive linemen who are in stances that for the first time that they've never been in before. I mean, the Eagles will work on going under center. You know, they don't do it much, but they do it enough. And a lot of people don't do that at all in college, whether it is the quarterback himself, the lineman, the snapper, everything. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of newness in the OTAs. Now, I know sometimes people get confused because, for example, Jordan Mailata in his press conference, I think it was last week, said something like, oh, these rookies are really pushing me. They're, you know, it's like we're competing every single day. And people say, well, wait a minute, you're not even on the field at OTAs. What are you talking about? But the good teams, and a lot of teams do this, Eagles definitely do, they even make the earlier phases of OTAs competitive. There are weight room competitions, there are bench press competitions. They try to like do everything in the spirit of one person competing against the other. So there are 3 phases to the NFL offseason. Adam, the first phase is the first 2 weeks where your activities are meetings, strength and conditioning, physical rehab. And that was the first 2 weeks of the offseason program. And so there's only limited contact allowed there. And that's really where, when you hear guys talk about, oh, we're competing, they're pushing
Actually,
each other.
nothing really. Yeah, they're not on the field at first. Just so you
right.
know,
That's what I mean. When I talk about competing, they're talking about it's in the weight room. It's really just physical strength training.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I talked to John T. Filippo about that, former Eagles quarterbacks coach. Recently said he goes, phase one, we don't get the players. It's strength and conditioning. Those guys that deal with it. And then they get them on phase two, which they've pretty much, I believe, completed. This is where you could line up. See, this is funny because you talked about how the Eagles over the years, you would get back in the Andy days, especially, you got everything, right? You could see everything, phase two and phase. I don't know what the hell they called it back then, but you got to see everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember, although they were a little bit more brisk, phase two, yes, offense can line up against defense, but they're walkthroughs. It's more mental. I guess you'd call them jog through. It cannot be at full speed. You're going at half or quarter speed.
Right.
So yeah, and your walkthroughs, I know you've seen them. So some teams literally all you're doing is walking through, or as the former Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy we call them jog throughs. We very slow jog because we don't want them to think that you could just literally walk through this. It doesn't matter. And the Eagles do, I believe they do more of jog throughs. It's slow, but it's not like you're not walking it like it's at a snail's pace. But the bottom line is it's much slower than phase three. Phase three, you do 9 on 7, 7 on 7, 11 on 11. But again, they're not physical. But I'll give you an example where Keely Ringo, this is where, and you could see it if you were there at OTAs last year, that this is where Ringo, I know you have to be careful what it really means. Unfortunately for him, it didn't matter a lot because Isaiah Rodgers beat him out. But he did have a good offseason. And speaking of Isaiah Rodgers, this is really the part where they knew he's back physically after his year off. So it absolutely is important. It's no one's winning or losing jobs. It's nothing to do with that.
Right.
It's, I've called it like AA baseball. It's you're ways away from it meaning anything in terms of winning a job. But mentally for the rookies, the UDFAs, and the second-year players, it's really critical to their development.
Absolutely. It is. And I even think, you talk to a lot of coaches, they'll tell you that phase two, even though there's no contact, even though it's walkthroughs or jog throughs, as you just said, that's really important for a lot of the younger players who are swimming, because when you just slow things down and you allow them to get on a field and execute a certain defensive or offensive look, but not have to do it at 100. They always tell you to make mistakes at 100 miles per hour. But before you even do that, you want to know where you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to align. Coaches really are able to get technical with alignment, with some fundamentals, with how a certain play is supposed to look and unfold. It's like anything. If you're building something, you want to start slow. You want to read the instructions. You want to see your parts to make sure they all fit. That's how I feel like phase two is. Everybody gets to slow down and just understand the greater concept of it. And then when 3 comes along, then you get thrown into the fire. You're running the plays. You're going a little faster. You're still not, doing like physical contact, but everything starts to move quickly, and that's where the mistakes are going to be made, and then corrections are going to happen. But I almost feel like you need that 2 to 3. That they redesigned the offseason program many times over the last 15, 20 years. I think it's smart. I know it's not as contact driven as it used to be, and that's fine. But I do like the way that it all comes together before phase 3. You go out there and do what you got to do.
Yeah, in fact, you better be careful with the contact, or you'll be reported to the NFLPA.
Oh, it's happened many times.
And the Ravens, I think the Eagles got docked over the last 15, 20 years. They got docked something. I can't remember which head coach it was.
Right. Didn't the Chargers get docked for something last year, and it became a joke because of the Harbaugh brothers?
Oh, Harbaugh, was it? I don't. You might be right. I don't remember. So yeah, you got to be careful with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's always like, okay, which player outed the coaches? It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, there's a reason why in the 2011 CBA, which is the negotiations between the Players Association and the clubs, was so contentious. The clubs are fine to give what they have now. The clubs are fine. They weren't fine with certain percentage of the revenues, but they were fine. The players wanted less strenuous offseason. They really did not want to be coached. If they were coming in to work out, they did not want to be bothered in February and March and April until all-season program started. They didn't want to be coached. You couldn't do that. That was a big win for the players, and the owners were like, "Fine, that's what you want. Hey, we'll give it to you."
Right.
But I understand from a player standpoint, man, mentally, it's so taxing. You're like, could we just decompress a little bit so I could just work out and not be bothered? I get that too.
Yeah. So to put a wrap on this, I think it's very obvious that rookies, especially undrafted rookies, but all rookies have the most to benefit from this because it's their first experience at the pro level. They have a ton of coaching to do. But I don't think too far behind would be the second year players. And the reason I say that is because as rookies, all it takes is like one injury. Like look at Anaya Smith, where you're off the field and you really don't get that growth. Yep. Plus, you're getting thrown into the fire. You may not have a place to live yet. Still probably in the hotel. I think for a second-year player like a Jalix Hunt, for example, who's already had a full season under his belt, already has some experience, the swimming element of it isn't as much there. And when you're not swimming and you're comfortable, you can just then take that next big step because you're all about learning. You already have that foundation built a little bit. I think second-year players probably benefit as much, if not more, than rookies because they're not worried about some of that external stuff that is going on with a rookie who just got drafted, who may not even be at the right weight because of the all whining and dining that you do all offseason. Everything goes so fast. I think second-year players have a little bit more of a foundation to build from and less hectic, chaotic things going on around them. And that can allow them to take that huge step that we often see.
Yeah, from rookie season to year two. And then the other thing is, let's not forget on offense, yes, it's going to look the same, relatively the same, but you have a new play caller. Jalen Hurts is fifth as an NFL quarterback.
Right.
So,
right.
But at least he's worked with Kevin Petula all 5 years. Well, this will be the fifth year together. So this is a lot. And yeah, there'll be some there'll be some differences because he's going to put a spin on it. So it's just going to be different. We're going to have to see. That's big for Jalen to hear a different voice in his ear.
Yep.
So it's like Kellen Moore had his own voice. Brian Johnson, who Jalen knew for decades. You know, obviously he knew the family, and then Nick, and then and then Shane Steichen. So yeah, this is yet another guy of and I remember you and I laughed about this. I'm like, because you brought it up. Well, what if Kevin Petula gets a head coaching job? I'm like, oh, that's not going to happen next year. And you go, wait a minute, we got to be careful with that. Who knew Shane Steichen would be a head coach? I was like, yeah, you're right.
Exactly. Yeah,
right. I remember you saying that months ago. I was like, I mean, it's crazy. I don't know if any quarterback has gone through this. I know Jason Campbell, the retired quarterback formerly of Washington, and I don't know if he played for. I know he went to Auburn. I saw him at the Senior Bowl many years ago, but that was the belief around him is that he had too many play callers. Alex Smith went through this.
Yep,
it's tough when you continue to change play callers.
Yeah, well, they say the more things change, the more they stay the same. So for Jalen Hurts, it's really the same. It's just a different guy every single year. Yeah, he's used to it.
And a couple more things before we move on. Just things to, and we'll look into this. A.J. Dillon, how does he look physically, right?
Yep.
You need to see that. I know Andrew talked about this in his Checo Daily. Will Shipley, this is a big offseason for him. This is on your point about second-year players.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kenny Gainwell's gone. They don't have that pass protector. Let's see where he is just from a positioning. In pass pro, because you can't really get physical, but okay, let's see how you do it, or you line up correctly, that kind of thing. And then defensively, as you said, there's so many rookies, technique, hand usage. This is big for these guys. And then physically, guys come off surgery, you see how they're doing. And the thing I'm looking forward to, there are a couple things here is Mac McWilliams, how the Eagles going to line him up in OTAs, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do they line up Ty Robinson? We know he's an interior defensive lineman, but he could play along the line. How do they use him? And then for guys like Josh Uche, these guys are 1-year deals. Guys have a lot to prove here. Azeez Ojulari, this is a big year for him. So yeah, there's a little bit more on the line, and you're right, for defense, way more than offensive players, but there's some change here. There are a lot of defensive player changes here, and guys have to kind of start showing what they have.
Yeah, big OTA for Sidney Brown. Big to start to really
third year.
prove to Vic Fangio that he's dependable, he's reliable, he can get in this defense, he can play. within himself, not be a little bit reckless and things like that, especially with now Drew Makuba, probably ahead of him on the depth chart and Reed Blankenship. So yeah, big offseason for him. And you made a great point on Shipley, which is why, again, second-year player, it's hard as a rookie to get bigger and stronger. Sometimes you see that rookies need to get bigger and stronger, and it's really hard to do that as a rookie because your first priority is learning your role, whether it's special teams or getting in the offense or getting in the defense and doing that. And then throughout the year, you'll know like this guy needs to get bigger and stronger for year two. Well, year two is a lot more conducive to that, again, because your life is situated. You have familiarity with the strength and conditioning coach. They've seen you for a year. They know what you need to do. Will Shipley, it doesn't have to be dramatically bigger and stronger, but to excel in pass pro, you need better technique. And he is a guy who I thought needed a little bit more bulk, especially if you're going to take on an extra workload. So it's so much easier to do that and focus on that in year two than as a rookie.
Yeah, and one more, Lewis Cine. I know a lot of people have asked us and excited about him. As we reported at the time, the Bills were actually practicing him a little bit at linebacker. We'll see in the offseason program where they line him up. But he's a guy, look, the guy was a first-round pick. He hasn't played meaningful football in nearly 3 years, but we're told he's healthy. He's ready to roll. We know the Eagles signed him to a 2-year deal when they signed him off the Bills practice squad because they wanted to get him here to get a look at him in an offseason program. Well, here we are. So, yeah, there are – this is, and then obviously training camp is where it's all at. I mean, this is when you really see what guys have, and I'm looking forward to it because they're so young on defense. There are a lot of jobs open and roles open. Let's see what happens.
Yep. Hey, look, that's safety, but you mentioned Cine. We talked about Sidney Brown, Max, and Hook. I mean, that battle for the third and fourth safety spots are going to be really, really fun to watch throughout the spring and the summer. All right, so that's the basic gist with OTAs. Hey, golfers, guess what? It's your season, all right? And you can get yourself loose at Stretch Zone. It's a great place to get loose before you go hit the links or maybe even after you're done. They do a ton of business with golfers and golf pros. In fact, if you check out their Instagram page, you can see how they do stretches in the back of the greens with agreements with golf clubs for promo purposes where the golfers get a free short stretch from the nearest Stretch Zone location. And you know what's things that dads like to do? Golfers like dads are golfers. Golfers are dads, right? You got Father's Day coming up June 15th. Why not get your dad or someone who is a dad a e-card or a gift card? And you can do that in two ways. You can do it immediately with the e-card or the traditional way where you get it sent to them through email and it's received in 5 to 6 days for the recipient. So what a great gift on Father's Day, a gift card at Stretch Zone in any of their 13 locations in Pennsylvania. We've got them in Chester County. We got them on the main line, got them in Montgomery County, and also in New Jersey. Adam, what's your favorite place to go in the spring and the summer?
Oh, Stretch Zone. And by the way, so I have a ritual. So when I play golf, I play in a golf event in Hershey, PA.
Yep.
For Mid-Penn Bank. And what I do is, because I got to be, as you know, because I know you play more golf than I do, I got to get my hips done. I need my hip stretched, my back stretched. It is, because if you play pickleball or tennis, okay, you're using different parts of your body. But for golf, it's my back. And I know for my friends who play a lot of golf, the biggest issue they have is with their back and their hips. Mm-hmm. You got to turn and and
sure.
Turn your hips like a swivel. So, so I have a ritual. I do it either depending on when my tee off time is, or I go the day before and I go to the one in Exton because I just get off the turnpike and I go there. So yeah, it's just great. StretchZone.com. Get your free 30-minute stretch.
Folks, don't forget about that Northfield, New Jersey Stretch Zone. Perfect if you're on the way to the shore. There's great golfing down the shore. There's obviously you want to go to the beach. You want to look good. You want to feel stretched out. I've already driven through Northfield twice. I mean, I don't live that far away, but I mean, I've driven there twice on the way to the shore over the last month or two. So I know I'll be stopping in to the Northfield, New Jersey location probably a few times this summer. Again, visit them at StretchZone.com. All right, we're going to continue our series looking at NFC East divisional odds, the odds to win the Super Bowl, odds to win the NFC. We did a lot of win total odds for the whole division on the previous show. So now we shift a little focus to some new odds, Adam. And this is to win the NFC East, to make the playoffs, to miss the playoffs, interestingly enough, and to win the conference championship and Super Bowl. We start with the Eagles. Give some numbers that jump out to you here.
This is interesting. Now, to win the NFC East, we talked about this the last show, that because their over-under totals essentially 11.5 wins. I like the over. I still think. I know some people are concerned. I saw some of the messages on our YouTube channel on that show that we dropped on Monday, and there's some people concerned about the schedule so hard. Man, the Eagles. Here's the thing about the Eagles. Yeah, their schedule is hard. If you look at the way these teams look this season that they're going to play, but you know what? The Eagles are a really good road team. That matters to me.
Yes.
That's been one of the biggest surprises, which doesn't get talked about enough, is how good the Eagles have been on the road since Sirianni became head coach.
I mean, his overall winning percentage is so good. It's like they're good at home, they're good on the road.
Yeah,
they're good
road, but you want to win. You want to win long term. You got to win on the road.
100%.
And that's something that they've been really good at, the portable game plan, as they say. So they're minus 150 to win the NFC East. So for each 100, you have to bet 150 win 100. Or think of it this way. It's I honestly I would make them a bigger. My line would probably be minus 200.
Oh wow!
But then you've got the note that no team has repeated since 2004. It's ridiculous. There's only 4 teams in the division,
right?
But I just they're better than Washington. As you were saying in the last show, let's say suffer catastrophic injury, they're going to win this division. Now you could look at a bunch of that could go for any good team. Now the depth, by the way, we don't talk about this enough. Depth with the Eagles is pretty good overall, but then there's untested depth where you just don't quite know. Inside backer, D line, safety, corner. You're not really sure what the depth look. You know who they are, but if they had to play, how well they could play, you don't know because they haven't done it before. But to me, it's minus 150. Now this one I love. I found this one on MGM. I love these to finish in second. So you're getting plus 170, which means for each $100 you bet back, and plus you get $170.
Yeah.
So it's like you bet $10, you get 17 back. That kind of thing.
Yep.
Think of it that way too. And then to make the playoffs, they're minus 450. So that's I hate to say a lot because again, if they lose their quarterback, they're in trouble. To miss the playoffs, they're plus 340. And let's just stop there. And will anything stand out to you? I think the finish in second plus 170 is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I think just from a betting standpoint, if you're trying to make some money, finishing second at plus 170, because if you finish second, you're probably still making the playoffs. And I think we both agree the Eagles are a playoff team. Yep. But then you factor in that no team has won this division, as you just mentioned, back-to-back years since 03-04. Something always seems to happen where the division winner from the year before doesn't win the division. I can't see the Eagles being so bad that they would be third or fourth, even if they have some injuries. I mean, maybe you never know. But again, plus 170 to finish second, sure. Could I see the Eagles winning like 12, 13 games? Maybe Commanders win 14 and the Eagles finish second. There's a scenario where that can happen, and I'd be willing to throw some money down on that to profit off the plus 170. Absolutely.
Yeah, so on that one, the plus 170 to finish in second, they have also odds third and fourth. Maybe we'll do them closer this season, but just wanted to put the ones that stood out.
Mm-hmm.
And then to win the NFC Championship is plus 300, and to win the Super Bowl is plus 650.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you gotta like the plus 300 too to win the NFC Championship. If you really, we did the whole power rankings, which we're gonna do again pretty soon. Now that it's been after the draft and OTAs and everything, but I think I had the Eagles 2. You had the Eagles 1 overall. So, I mean, plus 300, that's pretty good.
See, I'm betting on the coaching staff is so good. Mm-hmm. They kept the defensive staff intact. I think it was a TJ Paganetti left with Kellen Moore.
Right.
I know was he a linebacker? I believe he was with defense last year.
He was an assistant position coach, I believe, with linebackers.
Right. And Chip brought him in, him and his brother Ryan. Mm-hmm. Ryan's now with the Raiders, I believe, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, who's in analytics. So, yeah, I to win the Super Bowl, they have the slimmest odds at plus 650. I mean, obviously, if you think they're gonna repeat, that's good money for you. You put up 100, you win 650 back.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard, man. It's so hard. It's so hard, and it's just the thing is the changes on so many defensive player changes. But you know what? The cool thing is they're so young. They're so well coached. That's the cool thing. They're so young, but yet they have a veteran coaching staff, which is really cool to mold them.
It is. All right. So, and to win the Super Bowl, Adam, what do you think about that?
Yeah, plus 650.
Why not throw $20 down on that? I mean, you
Yeah.
can really,
Oh no. Yeah. That's exactly on your point. Right. It's a good one. The Lions. I'm concerned about the Lions pass rusher as I was last year. Man, I know Hutchinson's a great player, but they had like really no one else. Once again they're bringing back Davenport. I don't know why, but they keep bringing him back. Marcus Davenport, that is, who didn't work with the Saints. He always gets hurt, so they have pass rush problems. They've loaded up in their secondary finally because you saw what Washington did against them. Holy smokes, they embarrassed them in the playoffs in Detroit. But speaking of Washington, they're plus 225 to win the NFC East. To finish in second, which I like because I still am going to pick the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting plus money. They're plus 115.
Yeah.
Right. So I like that one. To make the playoffs, they're minus 140. To miss the playoffs, they're plus 115. I like them to finish in second. So I like the plus 115 a lot.
I'm struggling to make sense of there's no money to be made betting Washington make the playoffs, but there is to finish first or second in the NFC. That's a little odd. When I say money to be made, I mean you're getting plus odds, right? Because if you're going to make the playoffs, you're probably going to finish first or second in the NFC East. So what they're telling you is they expect the Commanders to make the playoffs, but it's hard right now to say whether they're going to be first or second. So there's still some opportunities there to make some cash in your favor.
Exactly. Because it's, as we were talking about on Monday's show, it's funny how they do these. Like when they were given the wins per team, the over under, they would skip like a number where the sweet spot was, where all the money is.
Mm-hmm.
So they skip it. It's just funny how they do this stuff. Hey, they got to make money, so they find a small advantage, you know.
Yeah.
So that one's interesting. Yeah, that of the Washington one, I like them. I can't see what, like, we'll get to the Cowboys in a minute. I cannot see the Cowboys being better than Washington. I just cannot.
No.
In any way, shape, or form.
No. And now to win the NFC Championship, you mentioned plus 800. To win the Super Bowl for the Commanders, plus 2,000. You know, I kind of go back and forth. I think they could be a very good team. Super Bowl is a little bit of a like. I'd rather probably put the money on the Eagles at plus 650 than the Commanders at plus 2,000. Even though the return will be better on the Commanders, I just don't know that they're ready. I mean, we're sitting here in May, so anything could happen. They could make a great trade and bring in another player, and that could change it. But if you're just going right now on the, you're trying to backdoor yourselves your way into a big payday here in May, I still like the Eagles at plus 650 to win the Super Bowl, even given the difficulty. I mean, actually, it's not that difficult. 8 teams have now won it back-to-back years, I believe. There have been 8 back-to-back Super Bowl champions. So the Eagles could become the 9th, or the Commanders are going to, break their really long drought. So I don't know. I kind of like the Eagles odds better.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have the Patriots dynasty, you have the Chiefs semi-dynasty.
Yep, Steelers, Cowboys. Yep.
Steelers, right now, yeah, obviously you have to go back a number of years.
Yep.
You're talking about over 30 years for the Cowpokes.
Mm-hmm.
And the Steelers, obviously the 70s.
Right.
No, it's hard. It's hard because so many things have to go right.
Right. Broncos
can't
did
suffer.
it.
What's that?
I'm just remembering now. The Broncos did it back to back. I had the whole.
They got in back-to-back Super Bowl. They got but they won one. Did they win?
No, they won both. They won 2 Super Bowls in a row. Yeah.
Okay. Was Seth Jordan on one of those?
I think he was on the first of the 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So with Washington, it's kind of it's really interesting. They came out of nowhere last year. And honestly, the roster wasn't really that good. The coaching was obviously phenomenal. The quarterback was elite as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
And they caught fire. But there's a saying in the NFL, once we see it, we adjust. And boy, that's the thing. The Giants went through this after the 22 season in Brian Dable's first year, where they were so far ahead of schedule, and they obviously been on the downslide big time since then. So sometimes, you're not as good as your record would indicate as Washington. I think Adam Peters is very aggressive, and you have to be because sometimes in personnel, you got to be honest with what you have. You can only put the coaches. You can only give so much responsibility to the coaches. Sometimes it's got to be on you to say, you know what, we need to be aggressive here, and he's been aggressive. We'll see how it turns out, but to move this along here, yeah, I love them to finish in second and plus 115 because you're getting money back. You're making you put up 1,000, you get 1,115 back. You put up 100, you get a 115 back plus your bet back. So yeah, I like that one.
There you go. All right, real quick, just to answer the question, the Packers won the first 2 Super Bowls back to back, and then it was the Dolphins who won Super Bowls 7 and 8 back to back, and then right after that, Pittsburgh won Super Bowls back to back. So that's 3 times right there.
Late
Pittsburgh
70s.
actually, yeah, Pittsburgh did it twice. Then the Niners were the next team to do it back to back, 89 and 90, and then Dallas became the next team after that. Then Denver. Then you had New England do it, and then you had Kansas City do it. So it's been done quite, and actually Pittsburgh did it, I think, twice. Did they not?
I thought
Pittsburgh won back-to-back Super Bowls twice as well.
Okay.
So
there are fewer teams then. See that the other difference is that
Yeah.
there were fewer teams then.
Yep.
It's there were. I'd have to look at it. It might only been 26 then, because they've had expansion, of course. But
Right.
You just need a lot to go right. You need not to lose a lot of coaches. That's, to me, is what doomed Andy. In fact, I know that. That's what people worked for the Eagles and told me, that they just felt like he just there was so much to overcome. And also, we've talked about this recently. Howie's lost a ton of people that have worked for him.
True.
And I know he continues to draft well and do well in free agency, but man, you could only take so many hits over the years. So we'll see. But right now, they've got a really talented young roster. But I'm looking for that team. This is another thing we'll talk about more in June. The breakout teams that nobody, like the Washington, as we talked about on the media call that I was on a couple weeks ago, where the league wants to fight, like they want to be on that. That's for flex scheduling. Well, what's that team that nobody's talking about? And we'll talk more about that later.
All right, cool. Next division team to talk about, the Cowboys, plus 600 to win the NFC East. To finish in second, plus 300, and to make the playoffs, plus 200. Do you like any of those 3?
The one that I like a little bit, and I got to steal in this more, is I'm looking at the teams I think will make the playoffs. Okay, Detroit, Philly, it's 2. Tampa's 3. They'll win their division. Washington 4. Green Bay's 5. Matt LaFleur, the king of the regular season, 3 and 6 in the playoffs. Not very good, but he's the king of the regular season. So then, where do I find the final 2 teams? Okay, well, I got to pick someone to win the West. That's 6. And then where's my sleeper team? Because Detroit wins their division, Eagles win their division, Tampa wins their division, and I got to pick. I'm gonna have like an upset team like Seattle. I'll pick somebody to win the West. Green Bay gets in as a wild card, and then where's the 7th team? I hate to say it, it could be Dallas.
Oh, sure, it could be.
And they were plus 300. Like that's one I could see that one being a pretty good one. Now, to miss the playoffs, they're plus 200, which is also very realistic.
No, to miss the playoffs, they're minus 275.
Minus 275, right.
Yeah.
To make the playoffs, plus 200, right.
Yeah. My thought process is, if you're going to try to get plus money on the Cowboys in the playoffs, then you might as well just, if it's plus 200 to make the playoffs and plus 300 to finish second, you might as well go with to finish second, because I don't know if the 3rd team in the NFC East is going to make the playoffs. So if you're already trying to make money off the Cowboys making the playoffs, just go with the extra plus 100 you get and put some money on them to finish second. Because to me, if they're going to make the playoffs, it's because they finished either first or second, and first seems pretty unlikely. So second, maybe you could see some things happening where Washington really falters, has some injuries. The old guys don't, Tunsil and Debo don't work out, and bam, Dallas stays healthy and gets back. So I wouldn't if I'm going to put money on them to make it plus money, I'm going to go finish second at plus 300 over to make the playoffs at plus 200.
By the way, Dallas, to finish in third is minus 125. So that's where the money is for them to finish third. That's funny.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
like you said, to miss the playoffs, minus 275. So not a whole lot of money to be made there. And to win the NFC Championship, plus 2,500. Win the Super Bowl, plus 5,500. I agree. Save your money. Even if you're a Cowboys fan, just save your money.
By the way, they always come out, and I don't know. It's kind of weird. It could be with our pre-draft shows. It could be whatever the reason is. They come on there, and the Eagle fans just crush them. It's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
They always bring up the stuff. They haven't done anything since the mid-90s, and the record like at one point it was like a dead even from like 96 through like 2022. It might have been like dead even, like 500 exactly. I don't know what the number was, but maybe a couple games over 500, which is kind of fun. They're so hot and cold, the Cowboys.
Definitely. All right, let's finish off with the Giants. These numbers are just like hysterical when you look at them. But there is one odd that I kind of like.
Oh, really?
If you really just want to, take a chance, right? When I say kind of like, I mean, some of these things, their NFC Championship odds and Super Bowl odds are like, it doesn't matter how much money you could possibly make. They're just not going to win either. So to me, it's like save your money. It doesn't make sense. But you go through the other ones, the lower level ones, and I'll tell you which one I kind of low key wouldn't mind.
Well, all right. So to win the NFC East, they're not winning it. Plus 2,800.
Mm-hmm.
To make the playoffs are plus 1,400. Plus 750 to miss the playoffs. Obviously, because they're a heavy favorite to miss them. Let me make sure I'm reading that right.
Yeah, no, I think that I think you probably have an extra thing in here. I think to miss the playoffs is minus 1,200. That makes more sense.
Okay. Right. So to make the playoffs, they're plus 750. To miss the playoffs, they're minus 1,200, which is a lot.
Right.
I can't see any way they make it. See, the problem is, we mentioned on the Monday show, their schedule is so hard. I got excited when I saw the roster. I'm like, wow, they really have talent defense. They're very talented.
Yeah.
If Andrew Thomas could actually play 16 games, they might have an offensive line.
Right.
But their schedule is so ridiculously tough. Just the pockets it reminds me of the Eagles schedule in 2023. It's really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, to miss the playoffs are minus 1,200, which seems to be a lock. And to win the NFC Championship, they're plus 10,000. Good luck with that one. And to win the Super Bowl, they're plus 25,000. They're tied for the longest odds in the NFL, same as the Saints. Boy, they really hate the Saints. The odds, plus 25,000. I mean, the Saints. Well, the problems at quarterback obviously give them like no chance to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
Plus 25,000.
Yeah. So I guess in a weird way, to make the playoffs for the Giants at plus 750, I could see, only because last year was an anomaly where you had your 3 wildcard teams all in double-digit wins. I mean, a couple of years ago when the Eagles made it, they for the first time under Nick Sirianni and Hurts, they were only 9-8 that year, I believe. And then just 2 years ago in 2023, the Rams, the Bucks made it at 9-8, but they won the NFC South. The Giants aren't winning the NFC East, but one of the wild card teams was the Rams at 10-7. Do I think the Giants can win 10 games? No. But again, if last year was an anomaly, this year could be the same in that maybe the last team sneaks in with 8 or 9 wins, and maybe that could be the Giants, who have good defensive personnel. Maybe Jackson Dart that gives them a little. I don't know. I know they have a very tough schedule. So again, I'm not putting my money down. But if there was one category here that I would try to make some cash on, bigger cash, it would be plus 750 to make the playoffs, and just hope that they get in there with the last seed by hook or crook.
I got one more for you on the Giants. To finish in third, they're plus 500. Obviously, everyone and their mother thinks they'll finish in fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, they're minus 750. You got to bet $750 to win 100. No, I'm sorry, minus 7, because it's like I said on Monday's show. Without looking at their schedule, go, wow, nice roster. This is a 500 run. This team could win 8 games. Yeah. Nope. Look at their schedule. There's no way in hell they're going to win 8 games. They would need a miracle to me with this schedule.
No, I agree. There's just not a whole lot of opportunities where you're like, I might be able to make money there. It's just too
That's
dangerous.
it. With if you go through the schedule, go, okay, can you give me a good pocket where they could actually win 2 or 3 in a row? No.
All right, good stuff. So that'll finish off our divisional odds for the NFC East. We went through OTAs and what to watch for, and then this will be a good week because the Eagles will have OTAs and we'll be able to get a little bit of stuff there, and I'm sure there'll be some player interviews and things like that. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds.